everybody, and today I'm going to show you guys a gameplay between Leela and Leela played on my machine. And I was just very interested to see how Leela would play the position after just simply g6 in this position. And really I wanted it to play for basically the accelerated dragon, and I wanted to see how Leela would play this. And yeah, hopefully you guys will enjoy the video. I have not seen the game yet, so we'll see if I get excited. The game did end up draw, but okay, let's just analyze it together. So let's turn on Leela. So, okay, so d6 is played, obviously not bishop g7 because of e4. I feel like this is fairly obvious, so d6 is played. Bishop moved to e3, bishop to g7, f3, castles, queen to d2. Obviously, you don't castle here because on h4 and you lose the important r-squared bishop. And here, white's bishop on f1 is extremely bad. And black has the bishop, black has the pawns, black has everything here, and black is better. So bishop e3, then f3, and then once the bishop is now defended, you move the queen back. Now pawn to a5 is chosen by Leela, which I think is an interesting choice. Now keep in mind this engine is playing around, I think, 100,000 depth. I'm a little bit unsure. I think it is 100,000 in depth. So it calculates 100,000 moves, or 100,000 different chess positions, basically 100,000 different nodes. Whereas, you know, Stockfish can calculate millions of moves a second. Leela calculates, here you can see 11,000 moves a second. So yeah, it's very interesting to see. Okay, so b3 is played by Leela. So Leela is basically playing a very defensive approach with the pawn chain here. The black plays the move pawn to a4, trying to destroy the pawn chain. Now threatening to take on b3. So white decides to play the move pawn to b4, and yeah, now bishop b6 I think is very accurate. Now the pawn on c4 becomes a target, so black here definitely has a good position. I mean, the pawn on c4 is actually a big weakness. Rook c1, and knight to d7 was played. Oh yeah, oh nice, okay, rook c8, this pawn's just hanging. So, yeah, and if you go here, probably knight b5, yeah, knight b5. And, yeah, now the pawn's defended. So, knight d7 is played instead. I guess the idea is just to open up the bishop or something. Okay, bishop e2, now e3, castles, and knight to b6. Okay, so now knight d5, take, bishop goes back. So white here has a clear sort of queenside space advantage, though at the same time it's not really that big of a deal. Since, I mean, after this move, black can probably, yeah, you can black to just take, and black has the pawn on b7 and pawn on e7, and black, like if you ever push one of them, then the other one, for example, if you go, let's say this stoppage move, like here, if you go here, okay, in this case you can trade queens, but let's say you trade queens. If you ever go for one of these moves, they can even go here. Okay, in this case that's not the case, but the problem is the pawns are weakness. Could be weakness. Anyways, bishop to d4 trading dark square bishops. Apparently this is really strong for black. Strong for whites. e6, take, and rook c3 is also pretty interesting. I guess white is playing for c5, though. It's unclear how white should play for an advantage here to me. But also it's unclear how black should play. I feel like, you know, Leela is more a restrictive engine than a tactical one. Like you can see here, I think that its main point is like, well, in this position after rook c1, there's not much that they can do. If you go here, I take the pawn. And if you go queen c7, I go knight b5. So, like, you have to go knight d7. This is the only plan. And the point is that, you know, really restrictive. Apparently, this is the top edge move now. But anyways, this is what happened in the game. e6, take, rook c3, rook e8, and king f2 is actually the top move. That's wow. Damn, why is that the case? I genuinely don't know. I think it's just, there's nothing really black can do to take advantage of it. Like, very often you will see grandmasters playing moves like king f2 or king h1 or something, but the reason for them is just like developing a piece. they don't have any immediate things. Like it's not like your knight is gonna checkmate the opponent right now. But in the long term, that's gonna happen. You know, you're developing your pieces so that you can use them in the future. It's the same with King f2. You put the king slightly more forward. Maybe you're gonna use it in the future, right? It's very hard to come up with these ideas. But okay, here attacking the pawn. Queen takes pawn. Queen h4. King goes back, and the rook moves back here. So white is up a pawn, I think. Yeah, white is up a pawn. And it seems like white is doing absolutely great. But apparently this is not better because, well, first of all, there's a discovery with the bishop. If the bishop moves and the bishop on e2 is hanging, so... Oh, wow. If I play some random move, if I go here, bishop takes e4, does that work? Because if bishop takes, there's always this checkmate. Oh, but there's this move. Oh, I didn't see that. But also, if rook takes, then I can take. But in this case, the queen's hanging. Okay. So let me just ignore that for a second. I did not, just want a queen. Anyways, this move, queen was back, and apparently this is equal. I don't get that. And I guess it's just the fact that the bishop on e2 is just really, really bad. So, the game didn't end immediately. But yeah, this game definitely ended in a draw. It was a really long draw. Apparently, like, bishop f1, I guess, getting out of the check. Rook c8, rook d1, rook takes b4. Now, allowing the tactic, I mean, Leela saw this idea, like, here, and then allowed this tactic, which is... Okay. But, like, I can't analyze every single small detail in this endgame is definitely a draw. So then the question is, what are some of, like, the technical nuances here? So I think queen d2 is obvious, a5 is obvious. I think queen a5 is probably slightly better. I just don't get why a5. What does a5 do? Oh, wait, guys, I actually know. So a5 is actually the top stockfish move as well. And actually, the idea is actually very, very long-term. So what black wants to do in this position is to target the c4 pawn. So black wants to play with like bishop b6, and let's say some random move. You want to go rook c8, attack the pawn, and you might think, oh, well, what about b3? b3 is a very annoying move to face. Now in this case, there's this move, which is ridiculous, because if pawn takes, there's knight takes, and there's a pin, right? And this move, there's knight h5, and apparently this is also equal. But the main point, okay, this move is ridiculous. This move is absolutely ridiculous. But the point is that you can actually play this idea and then play this idea. In this case, it loses a pawn, but the point is you use the a pawn to break apart the structure, and this pawn can be taken by the knight. But as we can see, that's exactly what it does. It understands that the c4 pawn is what black wants to attack. So it plays a5 and a4 in order to stop white from playing b3, or basically to undermine the structure after b3. So the best move here is actually knight a4 according to Leela, or not the best move, but one of the moves. And after bishop b6, you can go knight b6 and basically say, well, the knight is blocking literally everything, blocking both of the pawns, and also you win a pawn apparently. But then knight e7, queen a5 take is not best. You have to go f5, and basically taking advantage of the fact that white is underdeveloped. But the point is, I mean, that's interesting, right? But the point is that a5, you want to undermine the structure. Black does that immediately. And it's important you do this now, because if the rook was already on c1, for example, this idea wouldn't work. Like here, you win a pawn. But now if you take with the knight, there's this move, right? So there's discovery. So I guess here you can actually go rook c1 and then maybe b3 here. But this position, queen to a5, is actually better for black. And the reason for this is because white is underdeveloped, maybe? I don't know. Here, queen b4 is actually a little bit annoying. Rook to a3, so black just gets a lot of data. The bishop d1 actually kind of defends. Yeah, it's I think in this case it's just really difficult for white to do anything. It's really difficult for example, if f4, there's this move, right? So yeah. Okay, well, anyways, that was not playing the game. We got b4, so we get a completely different structure, a structure that I'm not really that used to, but I guess this game is going to teach me something about it. Obviously, knight d5 is possible here, especially after bishop b6, because this move would cover the weakness, but obviously, Now d6 would be a massive weakness, and it will be pretty much impossible. I mean, now b5 is a top engine move. But b5 with the idea to sacrifice a pawn. If you take with a knight, again this move, and if you take with a pawn, then this move becomes possible, and these double pawns are really weak. That's actually very nice. That's a very nice idea. There's this move, counterattack, but then bishop e7, and then now they're not there. They can probably just take and yeah. Okay, apparently this is also really strong for black, but it's what black should do. It's really complicated. Not really complicated, but it's very interesting. So after this move, white should play this move. After b4 take, and this move you should go here. Okay, whatever. But anyways, this was played in the game. We got bishop to e6 instead of pawn e6. Probably more sound. And black now plays for pressure on the pawn. Again, if this move you take on the pawn here, and apparently the engine distance is also around equal to the, it's plus 0.87. Now you can see the numbers here, 59. That means that there's a 59% chance that white will win. So 59 and 59%. So knight d7 is an interesting idea as well. If something passive like a3, now you go here, because if you go here, now you go back. And if you go here, there's, what is there? There's queen c8, not this move, because for some reason, okay. But I guess then I could reroute here, and also, I guess, stops knight b6 ideas sometimes. But now there's just a lot of pressure on this q4, the knight on a4 is misplaced, and if you play knight b6, this pawn is always hanging. Which is, I mean, that's a very cool idea. That's actually a very cool idea. Okay, so bishop e2, a3, now stopping away from playing a3, but also black's rook now has to kind of defend the pawn. Yeah, now I guess b4 and c4 are pretty weak, but a3 is an interesting move. Now short castles, knight b3, no, sorry, knight b6. Now the c4 pawn is attacked, knight d5, very reasonable move. I think knight d5 is a move you can make without thinking much. And reach a position like this, where both sides has a bishop pair, material is equal, but white has these pawns, and very interesting. I think the problem here for white is that he doesn't have a knight. If white had a knight, that would be great, but the problem is white's bishops don't really have anything to do here, you know? They don't really have much momentum. They don't have much diagonal control. So this move is like, this move is basically like, well, my Dutch bishop isn't really on the best diagonal. It's not gonna do that much, if that makes sense. So c5 here is a reasonable move. The engine does not like bishop to b2, and the bishop here is on the strong diagonal. Queen to e5, trading off queens, and now you can't play bishop d4. Right now the top of your move is to bring the king up, but the bishop on b2, this diagonal here is completely in black's control. So white wants to stop that, not allow black to control the strong diagonal for free. Take and e6, not trying to chip away at white's center. You can't really decline it, because if you do, they're going to take you. If you take with the queen here, then yes, the pawn on d6 is weak, but the problem is that your pawns are as well. So you can play queen b6, king moves, and for example this move, though in this case I lose this pawn, so you go here, and then you lose the b4 pawn, and you're down a pawn, and yeah, you're down a pawn. There's not really much else to say. Okay, let's go back. And if you take back with the pawn, then the b4 pawn becomes really suspicious. Why is that pawn on b4? Doesn't make any sense. And also, like, white does not have much advantage. So you take, and now white has these pawns. Black doesn't have, I mean, black's bishop on e6 is very well placed. It's difficult for white to do anything though. Rook c3 trying to double up on the c file. You don't go here because of rook a4. And there's a lot of pressure. If you go here, the pawns are completely stopped. And if you go here, there's just take, actually. And the problem is the b7 pawn stops everything. Like, you can take and take, but you can't. This is not a passed pawn. Right? This is not a passed pawn because of the b pawn. So it's actually really difficult, really difficult for white to win here. But anyways, queen g5 is played. Queen g5 is a weird move. I guess you just move the queen to, wow, queen g5, I get the idea of queen g5 actually. You're just covering the squares. You're just covering, h4, no, sorry, you're covering a5, b5, c5, and d5. You're just covering the squares. Okay, so this move is played, attacking the pawn. Take, and black now is down a pawn, but is equal, which is really interesting. I don't think it's about piece activity. I think it's rather just about the fact that white can't really do anything. Like, I guess it's a transposition anyway, right? Just here, attacking the rook. If you move the rook, then there's queen b2 here, queen c3. So you just hang out, and now you win a back pawn, and this position is a draw. I mean, there's a million winning ways. I mean, this move, and you can win back the pawn with this move, and you take, and this position is very much a draw. So I think it's just the fact that black queen is just, I mean, this is really weird and very unintuitive for me, because like a queen is more powerful than two rooks, a bishop, and a queen. Can you really not stop that attack? Now, obviously, if you take, now you're up a pawn. There's still b4. That's sorry, b5. Interesting. But anyways, what ended up happening is there's a lot of pressure on the pawn, and white played the move b5, which completely restricts all the pawn play, but also in a way doesn't, because the pawns can be pushed in a way. But now, now they're gone, and the game ended in a really boring rook-in game that I will not go into right now. But blah blah blah. Yeah, I mean, these tensions are so good that they can play rook-in games perfectly. But I think this was a very interesting game. I mean, but I think the most instructive value for the game is to move a5 and a4. I think playing for this idea right now, and not playing like bishop e6 first, because now you can go here, and if a5 you can move your rook away, and now if this move you take. So it's important that you go here as quickly as possible. Don't play a move like bishop e6, because now you play b3, but there's still queen a5, and the rook c1, and then you can move the rook here, and now you play for b5. So there's a completely different idea here, you can see. So like there's two ideas in the opening, as I've said right now. First idea is to play a5, b3, a4. Very important move you play for here, not just some random move, because now you go here, and there's a smaller amount of now if this move you take. Now you play b4. Okay, there's a bishop on d7, but imagine you play this one instead. Now you go here, and now if this move you can take it, you're pawn. So I think that's very interesting. So going for this idea to sort of undermine the structure, but also queen to a5 is an interesting try, with the idea to play pawn to b4, and if black brings all the pieces and plays the move b5. Obviously, white is not going to take, because that just helps black. Now black will mess up the file. Apparently this tactic works. It does work, which is really funny. Huh. Wait, what? Does it work? Oh, because if take, you win the queen. Nice. I didn't see that at first. Also, you can take the queen first. Okay, so this move apparently works, but the point is, I don't think taking is a good move anyway. I mean, black can sacrifice material here. Take, and now this is equal, because white's bishop on d3 is very bad, and the pawn on b3 could be targeted by bishop e6, and black can play a move like pawn to e5, for example, or pawn to, actually not pawn to anywhere. Probably just like pawn h5, move the king up, but white is still probably better. Yeah, 97, c5, or 95. Okay, let's go back. So b5, obviously you don't take. You want to keep the structure. If you take, you take with the bishop. You don't take with the pawn, because now your bishop is terrible. Take with the bishop. So apparently this move is better. White doesn't do anything. It's actually really difficult for white to do anything. I guess this move prepares to go f4, because there's nothing here. I guess you can play f4. Though f4 is also a weakness. But you can see that there's, I mean, the stockfish always gives an advantage to white in these positions, but it's not so easy. Apparently the queen train is better here. You don't play this in between move because of this, right? That's important to know. Take back, bishop takes, pawn takes, knight moves away, and we basically get a Benoni. I mean, this is basically a Benoni endgame. And I think I'm not winning this endgame. This is not winning, ever, in the history of chess. I mean, how is this better for me? How is this better for white? Because, like, yeah, I mean, I have the bishop here, but how the hell am I going to utilize it? I don't know. Black has complete control over the dark square diagonal. Not really a position that I would want to get myself into. But the general strategy of this opening for black is just pressure along the diagonal, pressure white structure, basically, you know. But also, you can play a move like pawn to g4 is also a move. I think this is also very interesting. And now if you try to go for the same idea, you have this move. And then I can't go here. I guess maybe bishop d7 is not the most accurate move. Maybe if you go here, if you go bishop d7, 85, then you can trade. King takes apparently is best now. So this move doesn't lose tempo. If you go here, knight e5, take, king takes, and if you play knight takes, you take up the pawn, the bishop loses tempo. Now you can go here. If you go here, the bishop is very misplaced, and you go here, and black is not completely paralyzed, but black is paralyzed. I mean, you know, black is still play b5 and probably rook b8 and get the bishop out. And apparently this is fine. Oh, okay. I mean, I guess there's ideas. There's ideas everywhere here for white. Okay, let's go back. So apparently this move is better, and now you go e6 because after this move you go knight h5. You do not go here because of g5 knight h5. Now you go here and you're winning because of take king takes, and if you move your king, which I think is knight b6, obviously. So there's just tactics, I guess. So you go e6 preventing knight d5 permanently, and actually now it's a little bit unclear how white should proceed because if you're knight h5. And then knight basically blocks all of white's h4, h5 plans, and f4, h5 plans are also not really that good, because you just play bishop c3, now bishop c6, and the pawn could be weak, and also f5 again, like the engine fights everything. I mean, f5 is trying to basically. I mean, it works in every variation, but how can I explain it? If you take. Yeah, you don't even recapture, funnily enough. You don't do like this.